Errol, I'm disappointed. This is the person that was number 2. This was the same person that seconded my nomination on November 29th to be the leader of the Democratic caucus. This was the person who was the chair of DSCC. This was also the person who had over $1 million in payroll when they talk about overspending with respect to our caucus. This is a person who was involved in what was going on. He knew the internal workings and the legislation that we did pass. He said we passed the property cap twice. We passed domestic workers' rights. We passed the Rockefeller drug laws. $700 million we got this state to deal with race to the top. We streamlined government. Authority reform to make the MTA more accountable. Pension reform, where we're saving close to $30 billion for New York State residents. There's a lot of legislation that we could have done. But if you look at the legislation that we've passed in our 2 years in the majority, we have passed legislation that has been bottled up for years and decades in the New York State Senate. We reformed the rules where we made it more equitable for members of the New York State Senate to deal with their constituents on a better level. While in the minority, we were treated extremely poorly. But we made sure the minute we became in the majority, we did away with that, and we made sure that there was a baseline allotment, $350,000 for all new, old state senators so they can deal with their constituencies. Of course, there was legislation that we didn't pass, but let's talk about the legislation that we did pass. Let's talk about the legislation that was bottled up for years.
Well, I mean, you and Senator Klein, of course, can take credit for making that happen, and all of the things that you mentioned and a few more really should be, of course, be charged to your credit. Whether people like the legislation or not, you did get it done. But again, where's the disaffection coming from? If as late as November 29th he was willing to vote for you to lead the caucus, what changed?
Well, you have to ask him that. You know, and that's the question. If you have issues and concerns like we did in the past, you come to me, you tell me about it, and let's deal with them. This move that he made when he didn't want to be the deputy, he said he had called me. Didn't call me once. Didn't pick up the phone and call me so we can deal with these issues. Some of these gripes that they have, they could have told me about it, and we could have dealt with them. But most of all, our conference feels betrayed. There's nothing wrong with being independent. We have independent people in our caucus. We have conservative Democrats, liberal Democrats. The most independent Democrat in our conference is Senator Ruben Diaz. But he chose not to lead the conference. And the questions people ask is, especially during this period of time, when we are fighting for the poor and the middle class, because if there is a little adversity, you decide to leave the conference, and all of a sudden you talk about you want to leave to be independent, to deal with issues, to deal with policies. The question is it about being independent, or is it about the powers and the perks? You're getting an office. You're working with the Republicans to get an office. You're working with the Republicans to get allocations. You're working with the Republicans to get chairmanship. What is it about? Don't use excuses. Get to the bottom line. My door has always been open, and that is why people in my conference selected me, because I have an open door policy, hear your issues and concerns, and try to work them out to the best of my ability. And you know what, Errol? One, that could be a fault of mine also, by trying to listen to people, trying to deal with people, trying to work out problems. Because you know, at the end of the day, instead of getting any credit, people will just stab you in the back.
Is your door still open? Still willing to talk with them?
You know what? My door has always been open to talk to anybody. They're Democrats. They're true Democrats. And you know, one point I do have to make. Senator Dave Valesky, you know, who was a part of the independent groups. Senator Dave Valesky spoke to me in November, and he said, Senator, I need my independence. I said, Senator Valesky, I understand it. You have to do what you need to do, because all politics is local, so you can get reelected. He came to me, he spoke to me, he said, Senator, I can't vote for you as leader of our conference because it's an issue in my district. I said, Senator Valesky, thank you, and you don't have to vote for me because I understand your concerns. That's what I'm talking about. Senator Carlucci, this is the same individual that we gave over $700,000 to in DSCC. Same individual, not even day one.
$700,000 in campaign funds.
$700,000 in campaign funds for him to win his reelection. Our Democratic conference, and on day one, instead of coming to not only me, but coming to my conference and explain his conference, explaining to his members his dissatisfaction, How can he have any dissatisfaction when he never sat one day with us in the chamber?